Okay, I think what we'll do is we are going to get going back. So, once again, thank you everybody for joining us. This is the second one of our webinars. We've got 3 today. We're front loading the beginning of the week. So we've got one today on applying for housing with a conviction. This morning we had transition from release into the community with my colleague Chris and one of our volunteers, Anton. So if you joined that, I hope you enjoyed it. And this one is about applying to university. We have some more tomorrow and the rest of the week, and I'll be sending you all details of that. But this one is sort of quite close to my heart. Particularly, it was an area of work that I worked in with Cardiff Met a few years ago, where I supported various people who were wanting to come to the university and had previous convictions, and also people who were serving prisoners in an open prison in South Wales to come to the university. And a lot of it really has been, a lot of the lessons I've learnt really stems back from that time. I'm very pleased to welcome from Cardiff Met Katie Gamston, and also from the University of South Wales, Ali Roberts. Both are student recruitment officers and have very kindly given us their time, their knowledge and their expertise today. So what we're going to be doing is going to be handing over in a moment to them, and they're going to be talking about the experience, particularly from their university, but hopefully by talking about the experience from their university, it will give you a bit of a flavour for how a person with a conviction might apply to university across a couple of different institutions, and it might just give you a bit of a flavour for it then, although of course each institution is a little bit different or has its own little nuances. Just a reminder as well, if you could keep your mics on mute, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions at the end, if that's okay. So I shall hand you over to Ali from University of South Wales, who has been great to talk to Ali actually quite recently about supporting people. We're actually actively supporting an individual at the moment who's going to hopefully apply to, well, we know he's going to be applying to the University of South Wales quite shortly. So being able to hear what Ali has to say from the University of South Wales will be great, and then I can hand over then to Katie. So Ali, if I could start off with you, if that's all right, please.
Of course. Thank you very much, Jamie. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to share my slides now. Jamie, if you could just give me a thumbs up when you can see those. Got that?
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so if there are any issues during the presentation, or if you have got any questions that you'd like to kind of remind yourself of, please do pop them in the chat. I'll try to answer them as I go through. I'm also going to pop a quick link in the chat now to a online form. If you do want any more information from the University of South Wales about applying to us or studying with us directly, if you complete that form there, we'll have your details so we can send you on the correct information as and when you need it then. Okay, so feel free to complete that if you'd like to. So as Jamie said, my name's Ali Roberts. I'm a student recruitment officer here at the University of South Wales, and I'm also a mature learner champion. So I work directly with anybody over the age of 21 who hasn't got a level 3 qualification yet. I can also work with those that have got level 3 qualifications, obviously, but specifically supporting those who haven't to find the right course for them and to apply to university. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about kind of what higher education is, whether it's right for you, the kind of common concerns that people have about university, and then further on in the presentation I'll go into a little bit of information about how your conviction affects your application or doesn't affect your application, as the case mostly is, and what you need to do when you're applying with regards to that. So, is higher education right for you? The things that people generally tend to think about, no matter what age they are, is whether higher education is worthwhile. There's lots and lots in the media, especially since social media is such a big thing, about whether or not it's even worth going to uni, whether you're likely to get a job at the end, all those kinds of things. So you want to have a look at the industry you're going into and the sort of job, the career outcomes of the course that you're looking for. You'll find that on any university's website on the course page for the subject that you're interested in, and they'll tell you the kind of employment rate from the qualification that you're looking at. Is university achievable for me? Obviously, what is the entry criteria? What kind of academic grades do you need to achieve, or would you be accepted on life experience, work experience, those kinds of things. Again, you'll find that information on the course pages. And can I afford to go to university, which is a big one for lots of students. University does look like it's expensive when you sort of search it on the face of things, but there is funding available. The funding does come in the form of a loan, but it's not a loan in the same way as a bank loan is assessed, and you also don't repay it in the same way. It doesn't take into consideration your credit score at all, so provided you haven't had a student loan previously, and you haven't already got a degree, then you are eligible for the student loan to cover your course fees. So funding it is kind of less of a problem than you might assume. Now, is it worthwhile? The average starting salary of a graduate across the board is around £23,000, and that increases year on year, obviously, as average earnings go up. This year it's more like £24,000-25,000, which is a really good entry level salary. Graduates tend to earn around £10,000 more per year than non-graduates, purely because they get to enter the industry at a higher level because of that higher qualification. There's a diverse range of career prospects, so getting a degree, doesn't matter what subject you got it in, doesn't tie you to that particular industry, because a higher education qualification is kind of transferable. So I, for instance, got my degree in acting. I never actually went into work in acting. I wasn't tied to being an actor because of my qualification. I've worked in marketing ever since. I've worked in sales, I've worked in retail, all at that sort of higher graduate entry level because of that qualification. It's worthwhile because it allows you to pursue a passion. So you may not ever have been particularly interested in anything in school or in college, but you might have a passion outside that you'll find that you can pursue at greater length in university. There are so many different courses available across the board at higher education institutions, from things like golf groundskeeping, winemaking, wine distilling. There's so many different wild courses available, along with those average kind of maths courses, science courses, law courses, English, history, all your regular subjects as well. A degree, a BA or a BSc qualification, is an internationally recognised qualification. So whether you decided to stay in the UK or move on to work abroad, if that was possible, your qualification still stands at the same kind of credit. And you develop essential skills as well. So you're not just developing those subject-specific skills, you're also working across the board with different people, meeting loads of people from different places, networking, all those things as well. At university, you'll get new experiences that you probably wouldn't necessarily have access to anywhere else. The University of South Wales, along with many other universities across the UK, have got a diverse student body. We've got lots of students from all across the UK, as well as international students, all studying on campus in regular times, or studying online at the moment, but they will be back on campus soon, I'm sure. And the classes are intermingled, so you might be in a classroom with a wide range of different backgrounds, as well as a wide range of different age groups as well. We've got loads of different sports clubs and societies, and that's the same across all universities. And if you look at our sports clubs and societies and you don't see a club you'd like to be part of, you are able to set up your own society as well. You just do that via the Students' Union. You can apply to live on campus if you'd like to, and there's that sort of supported living aspect of that. We've got access to services right on your door, on-campus security, all those kinds of things. Lots of our courses have field trips. Some of those are international, some of them are more locally, some more local, and work placements as well, and those can be local work placements or placements abroad. Is it achievable? There are over 400 higher education providers in the UK, so there's 400 different places that you could look at, with over 50,000 different qualifications, different courses to look at. So you are bound to find something that suits you, whether that is the way you study, where you study, how many days a week, anything like that. There's so much variety out there. You're bound to find something that suits you. There are 2.3 1.38 million students studying at higher education institutions, and that was in 2018-19. Obviously, that fluctuates year on year depending on how many people have applied, but that's roughly the amount of people that study every year. And there's also over 240 colleges that offer higher education options as well. So if you'd like to do a higher education qualification, but you wouldn't necessarily like to go to university, check out your local college, because lots of the local colleges have HE courses as well, sometimes with easier access routes as well. So there are different methods of teaching at university, and it's worth looking when you're doing your research into courses how the course is taught. It'll vary from institution to institution. So just because it's called BA Business, for instance, doesn't mean it will be taught in the same way or assessed in the same way, or even that it's got the same course content from different institutions. They will be different. So make sure you read the course pages for what you're applying for. Methods of teaching include lectures, tutorials, practicals, workshops and placements as well. As I mentioned, some of the courses have got international placements. And studying a full-time course isn't like having a full-time job necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in lectures from 9 to 5. What a full-time course means is the equivalent amount of work that you would do would be that many hours. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're sat in a classroom or you're expected to be in a virtual classroom for those hours every day. Some full-time courses you're only in for half a day, maybe twice a week, and then the rest of the work is made up on your own time. So the amount of work that you do would take that amount of time, but you're not necessarily expected to be face-to-face. So lots of people do manage to have part-time jobs and manage other things quite well around studying. So as I mentioned, there's different methods of teaching. There's also different methods of assessment. Some courses will have extensive essay writing as part of them, but if essay writing isn't your thing and you don't want anything to do with writing essays, then there are plenty of courses out there that will allow you to present or present practical work to be assessed instead. Just again, make sure that you're reading the course page and you're finding out what those methods of assessment are. Some courses will have exams, some others won't. Lots will have you working on group projects, which is really important for building those essential skills, as I mentioned in a previous slide. Some will get industry briefs, which means that an industry partner working with the course offers a live brief, and as part of your course you work on that and present it to industry, which is excellent practice for once you've qualified and you're looking to go into a job. And also there's work placements, obviously, which always leads to provided that you do well, obviously, on your placement, an opportunity, quite often leads to an opportunity to apply for jobs with those companies afterwards. So it's a good starting point and great networking opportunity. Is it affordable? Now, as I mentioned in the first slide, everybody, as long as you haven't got a degree already and as long as you haven't accessed student finance before, everybody has access to the UK Student Loans Company, Student Finance Wales if you're living in Wales, and Student Finance England if you're in England. Tuition fees are paid directly to the university, so the money that's paid for you to study never comes into your bank account. It goes directly to the institution that you're studying at on your behalf. It only ever goes to that institution once you've enrolled at that institution. So if you apply and then you never start, the money doesn't go there without you. It only goes to that institution once you've enrolled. Everybody is entitled to the loan and to grants as well to help with living costs. Depending on your household income, you'll either get a majority percentage grant, which means you don't have to pay the money back to live on, or majority percentage loans. So if your household income is higher, then you get more of a loan, which you pay back ultimately. If your household income is lower, you get mostly grant and then a lesser percentage of loan for the money to live on. Those are two separate pots of money. There's one pot of money that pays for your fees and another pot of money that is paid for you for living costs. All of the money that you owe back, everything that you borrowed in loan, you repay at 9% of your earnings over a threshold yearly. Now this threshold can change year on year. You'll find the current threshold on the Student Finance Wales website. This year it's £26,575. So if you cast your minds back to a couple of slides ago where I mentioned the average starting salary of a graduate is around 24,000, you don't start paying your loan back until you're earning £26,575, which means that the vast majority of students can start in that first well-paid job for at least a couple of years before they start making repayments. And even then, the repayments are only 9% over that amount. So if you were earning that amount exactly, you wouldn't make a repayment. And if you were earning £26,576, you would only pay 9% of £6 back monthly. You're eligible provided that you haven't already got a degree, as I mentioned, and provided that you haven't accessed the funding before. And if you're applying for a health-related course, you can find on the NHS website which courses apply: nursing, dentistry, veterinary health. They've all got a bursary from the NHS via the government that pay the course fees for that you can apply for as well. So if you're looking at one of those courses, have a look online at the NHS bursary and you'll find out information about that as well. So things worth noting in terms of funding: you only get one chance at full student funding. So say you were to start this year at university and you apply for student finance and it pays for your first year and then you drop out, you don't have access to a full course worth of funding again. You've lost a year's worth of funding. Okay. It will fund the advertised duration of your course. So if you've applied for a course that on the website says is 4 years long, then you will get 4 years worth of funding. If it says that it's 3 years long, you will get 3 years worth of funding. Every year you just need to log back into your student finance account to confirm that you're carrying on, so that they can carry on the funding. And you do get one default year. It isn't very well advertised, but it's there for those students who either potentially fail a year and need to resit, or change their mind about their course in the first year. So it allows you to make that quote-unquote mistake and it catches you. So if it's a 3-year course, you've essentially got 4 years of funding, because you've got that one kind of gift year as well, but you can only use that the once. You don't get to use that gift year if you drop out and reapply later down the line. You only have as many years as is left of your original funding. You can contact our student money advice team at the University of South Wales for more in-depth information about funding. You can contact them whether you're applying to us or not. Obviously, it's better if you are considering applying to us, but if you'd like some general advice, just give them a call. They're really great and they're really knowledgeable. And I believe they've got a live chat function on the website at the moment as well. Or you can email them with the email addresses on the screen there. So the things you need to consider are: what course are you going to apply for? Are you going to study full-time or part-time? What are your interests? Which institution would you like to study at? Which subject? Are you interested in the facilities that the university have got? Are you interested in staying living at home, for instance, or moving away? So there's lots of things to take into consideration. When it comes to choosing a subject, you want to be thinking about what you're going to enjoy doing day to day, or what you want to do in the future. It's really important when you're considering going to university that you apply for a course that you're going to enjoy, or that you feel like you're going to enjoy, because you're doing it for 3 years and it is quite an in-depth study. So if it's not something that you're going to enjoy, it's a long time to be looking in depth at a subject you're not overly interested in. Search for courses by subject on the UCAS website and you'll find all of the courses in the UK that are available under that subject. UCAS is just UCAS, UCAS.com, and you can just use their search function there. When you're searching in UCAS, try to be specific if you know specifically what you'd like to study. But you can just type in business, for instance. It'll just throw up something like 9,000 odd results. So it's a lot to filter through. But if you know you want to do business with event management, for instance, or event management specifically, if you type that in, it'll narrow your results down a little, so you've got less to filter through. If you've got a specific career in mind, you can work backwards from that to do a little bit of research about what's required of you for that specific career, and find out if you need a degree to get into that industry as well. It might be that you don't need to, and university isn't necessarily necessary, but it's also worth considering all those additional skills and things that you develop while you're in university as well. And look at career prospects of the course that you're looking to study in. You'll find that on each university's course page, sort of where their students go on to, what the kind of success rate is once students have graduated, whether they're 90% of them are in that career path, for instance. You can find all that online. Choosing a course, there's things you need to consider. Like I mentioned earlier, there's over 50,000 undergraduate courses, so first degree courses across the UK, and no two courses are the same. They may well have the same title, but each institution writes their own course content. So just because they're both called BA Business doesn't mean that they're going to teach the same modules, teach the same topics. So make sure you read each page for each institution. The things that will vary will be, like I mentioned, the course content, but also the entry requirements. The entry requirements at different institutions will vary wildly. So make sure that you're looking at those. Don't take verbatim that you need, I don't know, 2 B's and a C at A level to get on a certain course, because if you look at it at a different institution, they may well accept work experience or a BTEC qualification and those kinds of things. So make sure that you're looking at all of those. Some courses will offer work placements and field trips. That doesn't mean that the same course somewhere else will as well. So make sure you read into that. Again, look at the methods of study and assessment. If you're not interested in writing essays, you'll probably find that subject somewhere with less essays. And accreditation is really important as well. So if you're looking to go into an industry where you need an accreditation, I couldn't think of the word again then, an accreditation, find out if the degree comes with it. Some courses will, some courses won't. If they don't and the career needs it, then you'll need to source the accreditation and probably pay for an accreditation after your course, when you could quite easily get onto a course that's already got it built in, and then you don't have to go searching for it afterwards. So I mentioned earlier that if you look for like generic titles like business, you'll find lots and lots of results online. If you search chiropractic on the UCAS website, there's only 4 chiropractic courses in the UK, so that's quite easy. If you want to be a chiropractor, you've only got 4 places to choose from, and then you can consider whether you're likely to get into which of those 4, so it's easy to narrow them down. English being quite a broad topic, you'll get 2,180 hits. That's quite a lot of courses to fish through. Speech and language therapy, 54 courses, so a slightly smaller pool again. Business, as I mentioned, 3,895. I wildly overestimated that when I said 9,000 odd, but you know. And media, 2,708. So it's a lot to fish through, but if you consider then you want to stay local or you want to go to a certain area, that'll take thousands out of that result because you're narrowing down your institutions. If you take out courses that are only taught full-time and you definitely need a part-time route, that'll narrow it right down as well. So you can filter those results down quite easily from those big numbers, but it is better to have a more specific idea of the subject area you'd like to go into. For instance, if you're interested in studying business, you might want to think about business and management, human resource management, marketing, logistics and supply chain management, all of those topics that you can see there. Each of those will have less results. And then biology. You may be interested in study biology, but think about what aspect of biology it is you're actually interested in. For instance, you'll get a lot more results if you type in biological sciences than you will if you type in marine biology, because there are less marine biology courses. When it comes to choosing an institution, this is equally important to choosing your course. As I said, you've got to enjoy the topic that you're studying because you're doing it for 3 years, but you've also got to love the place that you go in to study because you're going to be there for big chunks of your day for 3 years. You're going to be engaging with the kind of ethos of that institution for 3 years, potentially 4, depending how long you study for. So when it comes to picking an institution, obviously you need to find an institution that actually does the subject that you're interested in. If you wanted to do marine biology, for instance, and you were only interested in coming to the University of South Wales, then you'll quickly find on our website that we don't do marine biology. So that's something that you've got to take into consideration and then look at alternatives nearby. Where you want to study is important. So do you want to stay local to where you are right now? Do you want to be able to commute from where you live in right now? Do you want to move away particularly? Do you want to be in a big city, or would you rather be out towards the countryside? Do you want to have easy access to, you know, the border or whatever? Whatever your interest is in terms of location, make sure you take that into consideration. What type of university do you want to go to? Different universities have kind of a different campus style. The University of South Wales, for instance, we are one institution, but we're actually spread out across all of South Wales. So we've got a campus in Cardiff, which teaches all the creative industries courses, right in the middle of town, which is a sort of city campus. We've got a campus in Newport then that teaches teaching courses, education courses, social work courses, and cyber security. Again, right in the middle of Newport town centre. And then we've got our Pontypridd campuses, which are a little bit further out, 20 minutes on the train into the big cities, more countryside. And we're spread out, but we are one institution. Other institutions will be all in kind of one building in walking distance from each subject area. So make sure you find that out. When you do get an opportunity, try to go to an open day when we're allowed to have them on campus again, and when we're allowed to invite people on to look around in person. Please do go to them. I made the mistake when I was looking to go to university of not going to any open days, and I regretted it, because when I did start university, my first day there, moving in for 3 years, was the first day I'd ever been there. And that can be really, really daunting. So make sure that you've been and visited. If in the near future we still can't invite people onto campus in open days, try and at least go to the area that you're interested in studying. So if you're looking at Cardiff University, for instance, go into Cardiff, find out where those buildings are, walk between them, find out what is around that area. If you're looking to come to us, come down to Pontypridd, have a look around, into Newport, into Cardiff, wherever your topic is taught. And then have a think about what facilities you want and need. So lots of people make the mistake of just assuming that every university has a gym, every university has a swimming pool, every university has a shop on campus, for instance. They don't. So make sure that you're finding those things out first, because you don't want to be disappointed when you get there by assuming that all universities have got access to certain facilities, when they might not necessarily have so. You could also consider a degree apprenticeship. So a degree apprenticeship takes a little bit longer because you work alongside your degree. It combines working with studying part-time at university and can take between 3 to 6 years to complete. Again, funded though. Tuition fees are paid in full, so you graduate with no debt if you take this path. But degree apprenticeships are only available in certain subject areas. So you can't just choose a subject area and choose to do it as a degree apprenticeship. You need to look for degree apprenticeships, and they'll be listed in certain subject areas. The employers that are working with that qualification pay for you to do the qualification while paying you an income as well. You'll be a paid employee of the company with a contract of employment and holiday entitlement. And the employers are responsible for the recruitment, so you'll find those on each employer's websites. A good example of this is GE's, the aircraft engine builder people. Very technical term there. You can go onto their website, and BT are the same. You can go onto their website and find out about their degree apprenticeship schemes. We at the University of South Wales have our own sort of degree apprenticeship as well, called Network 75. You can find lots of information online about that. It's a sponsored degree programme, again, very similar to what I just mentioned with a degree apprenticeship. You work for industry, industry pay for your degree. You graduate with a degree from the University of South Wales, but you've also been a paid employee of that company as well. And that programme has got 100% employability, which means that every single person who has done their course with Network 75 has ended up employed by the company after they finished the degree as well, and they've gone on to work in that subject area. Now, as I mentioned, that is only in certain subject areas. Network 75 work with accounting, business, computing, law, engineering and surveying, but you will find degree apprenticeships elsewhere if you look around online as well. So how to start your search? You want to go to the UCAS website. That UCAS are a third-party organisation that pull together all of the courses across the UK. You can apply via UCAS. You set up an account on UCAS and you can apply to up to 5 different courses at different institutions via UCAS, and they'll handle your application for you. That's the best thing to do if you're looking to apply to more than one place. But if it is only 1 or maybe 2 institutions that you're interested in, it's probably better to apply directly to them. There is a fee to apply through UCAS, they're kind of handling admin fee. You don't pay a fee if you apply directly to universities, but it can be a bit of a nightmare if you're applying to 4 or 5 different unis. It can be a bit of a nightmare to keep track of your applications, and that's where UCAS comes in then, because they pull it all together and display it in one place and manage it for you. While you can't go in person, make sure that you attend higher university open days online, virtual open days. Every institution in the UK will be doing virtual open days, and they're really good. We've all tried really hard, speaking on behalf of the entire UK here, we've all tried really, really hard to make our virtual open days as realistic an experience as possible. So we've tried to replicate what you get in person on campus as best we can. Make sure you go to those. You'll meet course tutors, you'll meet support services, you can ask any questions that you've got, and also you'll get some virtual tours of campuses as well. Look at university comparison sites. If you Google university comparison sites, what uni, there's quite a few different ones online. You can look at what current students say about the university, current students say about the course that you're interested in, how they rank in terms of graduate prospects, how many graduates go on to that career, those kinds of things, who's the best in the UK for whatever subject. If you're interested in those things, you can find it all online. And you can chat to current students and current staff on the USW website. If you go to southwales.ac.uk and click chat to staff or chat to students, you can live chat directly with current students and current staff and ask any questions that you've got. It's worth mentioning here that you can also find my contact details via UniBuddy on the Inside Out Wales website. If you go to the education tab on the main Inside Out web pages, my UniBuddy card will pop up. Whether you're looking to apply to USW or anywhere else, please do drop me a message. I can offer you impartial advice. I can obviously give you more information about the University of South Wales, but if you've got any questions at all about how to apply, please do drop me a line on that. So make sure you research courses, who will be teaching you. You'll find out information about the teaching team and what their background is on each course page. Does the course come with accreditations, as I mentioned previously? How big are the class sizes? Now, if that's important to you, that's something you can find out at open day. University of South Wales have got small class sizes. The bigger the uni, the bigger the class sizes will be. So if you're interested in working in smaller groups, take a look at that. What do current students say about the course? I just said that you can see all that on those comparison sites. What have course graduates gone on to achieve? Most universities will publish graduate stories on the pages, so you can find out kind of where they go on to work and things like that. What will I achieve? What can you get out of the course? And what are your goals ultimately? What are your career goals? And is this course really going to help you achieve that ultimate goal? When you're researching your institutions, you want to think about where the university ranks, if that's important to you. Now, ultimately, it doesn't really matter where you get your qualification from, because qualifications on paper are equal. The qualification is the same. But if it's important to you to have that name, that potential prestige behind it, then make sure that you're researching where is the top place for whatever subject you're interested in. In the vast majority of careers, it doesn't matter, and in the vast majority of areas, nobody will ever ask. They'll know what degree you've got, but they won't be interested in where it came from necessarily. Does the university offer any bursaries or scholarships that you can apply for? Now, Katie's going to go on and speak a little bit about that kind of support later on. It's worth looking on every university's website if they've got additional monies that you can apply for, and the vast majority will. what kind of sports and societies are available. I mentioned that previously. What's campus life like? You can find all that out on a student life tab on each university's page. What's the surrounding area like? What's the access to services around like? Is it close to a train station? That kind of thing. And what do current students say about the university? Again, on those comparison sites. As I mentioned, you can chat to our students. This is what our kind of uni buddy card looks like. If you've been on the Inside Out Education page, you will have seen mine, which looks very much like this. So what do you need to do next? So you're thinking maybe you'd like to go to university, talk through all your options and your plans with any family, friends, teachers, advisors. The guys at Inside Out, brilliant for support. Again, you can message me if you'd like to via that as well. Start researching different subject areas and different institutions. Easy enough if you want to stay local, find out which your local ones are and have a look at their pages. Book onto online open days, and as soon as you're able to go in person, book onto the in-person ones as well, because they're great. How to apply? As I mentioned, if you're applying to more than one institution, you're best off going through UCAS. They've just recently updated the system and it is quite easy to use now. It used to be a little bit of a headache, but it is quite straightforward now. You just create yourself an account and it'll take you through step by step how to choose your courses on there. But if you are looking to apply to just one or two places, you can apply directly to the institution, and you do that literally by finding the course page on the website and clicking apply and apply direct, and you complete the application direct to the university. If you're thinking of applying to nursing at the University of South Wales, you do have to make that application through UCAS, even if that's the only course you're applying to. So you can't apply directly to the University for Nursing. So disclosing your convictions, you are invited to disclose any relevant convictions at certain points during the application process. Is it considered relevant if it is relevant to the course you're applying for? So relevant convictions are those which have implications for the university's duty of care towards the safety of students, staff or visitors. You can find all the information about disclosing your convictions and what is considered to be a relevant conviction on the USW web pages, and that will be the case for all institutions because it's a kind of set policy. Applicants aren't required to tell the university about spent convictions as defined in the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act of 1974, unless you're applying for nursing and midwifery at the university. If you are considering applying for nursing or midwifery, no conviction, unfortunately, is considered spent by the admissions team for nursing and midwifery. So if you have got a conviction, you wouldn't be able to apply for those courses. That being said, nursing and midwifery at other institutions do consider some convictions spent. So don't take the fact that USW don't take it as that nobody does. Make sure you do your research elsewhere because other institutions will consider applications. You don't need to worry about when you tell us. You'll be prompted during the application process. So if you haven't been asked for information, you don't need to provide it unless it's relevant. So if it's relevant to a certain point, you'll apply for it. And if you're looking to apply for halls of residence, you'll be asked to disclose information there as well. If you're applying to study a course that works with children or vulnerable adults, you must disclose all convictions, including those spent. That doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be accepted. It just means that you have to disclose them all, whether they're relevant or not, and you'll be considered on a case-by-case basis. And all of these disclosures are considered by a panel in our inquiries admissions team, and they take it on a case-by-case basis and they assess it against whether it would be an issue for that course, whether it's relevant basically to your study of that course, apart from for nursing and midwifery. Okay, and as I said, you can find out all this information and more. I've just kind of really thinned that down to bullet points there because there's loads of information on our web pages. If you go to www.southwales.ac.uk/study/criminal convictions, or if you just go into the search bar and type in convictions, it'll pull the page up straight away and you'll find all the information that you need there. As I mentioned, if you're applying for halls of residence, you will need to disclose any relevant criminal convictions there. Again, those will be assessed then by E&A, which is our inquiries and admissions team, and our operations manager. And everything is considered on a case-by-case basis. It goes to panel. You can challenge the panel if you want to, if you don't agree with an outcome, but everything's considered on a case-by-case basis, and you'll be prompted to disclose when you need to disclose. Additional support with your application, as I mentioned, you can find me on the education tab on the Inside Out website. I am available for one-to-one discussions about your application, how you access finance, whether that's really early on in the process in terms of finding a course for you. I've just answered Julie's question quickly before I move on. So relevant convictions for halls of residence, the same as relevant convictions for your course. So if your conviction would be considered to be a risk to current students or staff members or anything like that, then that would be considered relevant. If you're confused as to whether your conviction is relevant or not, just disclose, because the team at the university will then tell you whether or not it's relevant. Okay, but that's only current, no problem, that's only current qualifications unless it's a course working with children, adults, all of those things. Okay. Yeah, so I can chat to you about your application, I can chat to you about finance, research, anything along the way. I can arrange one-to-one chats with course leaders if you'd like to talk to somebody actually working and teaching on the course directly. We've done that recently for an applicant to one of our music courses. He met with the music course leader and they had a nice chat about kind of all of his concerns and what he needs to do to apply and all the things he needs to include. I can meet you and give you feedback on your personal statement, which is like when you're applying for a job, that little like about me section that you fill in. You need to complete a section of your application that says kind of why you're interested in this subject, why you think you'd be good at it, why you think it's relevant for you to study it, all those kinds of things. I can talk you through all of that and provide you with feedback on any drafts. And I can also act as a dedicated point of contact between you and the university throughout. Thank you very much for listening. I'll just check in with Jamie. Jamie, do you want me to take any questions now, or do you want to wait until the end of Katie's part as well and we can take them together?
There was just one there I just noticed. If you wanted to study psychology, would you have to disclose everything? Chances are you'll be working with vulnerable people at some stage. As I understood it, I think you mentioned before, it's only unspent convictions that would have that would apply to. Is that right?
Yeah, so most courses are unspent convictions. Let me just flip back to the slides because I copied it from the website and it had a list of which. Yeah, so potentially with psychology, it would depend on the course and to the extent that you'd be working with vulnerable groups, but you'll be prompted. So if you need to disclose a relevant qualification, then you'll be prompted as part of the application process. As I said, if you're in two minds as to whether it might be relevant or not, disclose it anyway, because it's better to have disclosed it and to have had it assessed when you know it's there than to have it found out later and then to be kind of kicked off the course potentially. So just disclose everything and then you can't go wrong.
Brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ali. Do you want me to hand over to Katie? Because I know that Katie said she was going to be doing the next part. But hopefully that's given you some good pointers in there. I think when we were trying to prepare this presentation and I spoke to Ali and to Katie about things, I wanted to show that whilst universities have a process for dealing with people who've got convictions, certainly for me when I've supported people to go to university who've got convictions, it's about trying to change the label, and actually the label is no longer really around ex-offender. It's more about thinking about perceiving yourself as being an adult learner. And it just so happens that as an adult learner there's this other issue as well that we've got to deal with, but by sort of changing the label, hopefully it gives your applicant, whether it's yourself or whether it's someone that you're supporting, it gives them a slightly different focus. So I'll hand over to Katie from University of South Wales, and she can tell you a little bit more. So over to you, Katie. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. I am actually from Cardiff Met, though, just to check on that.
Yeah, sorry. What did I say? Did I say somewhere else?
You said USW.
Oh, I can't believe I got that wrong. Sorry. Oh.
It's fine. It's fine. I actually used to work with Jamie at Cardiff Met, so he's obviously got fond memories of me from there. But hi guys, I'm Katie from Cardiff Met, and I thought we sort of, when we met to discuss this session, we sort of split the session in terms of pre-going to university, which is what Ali's covered, and then sort of what to expect when you're there. So I'm going to cover things like finance, the support that you can expect while you're at university as well, and then obviously we'll take any questions that you guys have. But obviously the example is very similar to Ali in a sense that the examples that we'll give are Cardiff Met specific because that's where I work, but equally very easily replicated across most universities within the UK as well. So obviously the examples we give are going to be Cardiff Met, but they are replicated across the UK. So a big part of going to university is the financial implications of that. And as Ali sort of mentioned, the universities can charge up to £9,295 per year for the tuition fee. Now that is predominantly in England. In Wales, universities are capped at £9,000 per year. But obviously if you are looking to go to a university in England or in Wales, it's just to kind of be aware that is the kind of charge, and that's just the tuition fee. Now there is support available, as Ali alluded to. You would apply through Student Finance Wales if you are a Welsh domicile student. So what that means is if you've lived in Wales for upwards of 3 years, you would be classed as a Welsh student. And there is kind of various different criteria. If you've moved away and come back, then you would need to contact Student Finance Wales basically to find out if you're Welsh, or Student Finance England to find out if you're English. I've just had to do this myself. I'm an English student, but have applied through Student Finance Wales for my Masters because I've been here for longer than 5 years. So I just had to check what my residential status was. So I'm now classed as Welsh because I've been here for longer than sort of 3 years. So in terms of your funding, what you're going to get, this is at undergraduate level, you are going to get the tuition fee loan, the maintenance loan, and the maintenance grant. So that's tuition fee loan here, maintenance loan, and maintenance grant. All of that is going to come from Student Finance Wales. As Ali's mentioned, bursaries and scholarships then, these are independent of Student Finance Wales, and they are from each individual university. Now it's really important to do the research. It's a bit of a pain because there's no one central page for all bursaries and scholarships. It is a case of going on to each individual university's website to look at the bursaries and scholarships that are there. I'd really recommend doing it. Bursaries and scholarships are free money that is provided by that university to support your kind of living and maybe your studying as well. But it's free money that you don't have to pay back. And it's definitely worthwhile looking at the criteria to see if you fit that criteria as to whether you could apply. Now, if anyone is joining us from England, if you're an English domicile student, then you would apply for Student Finance England. You'll notice that there's less little shapes here because through Student Finance England, you apply for a tuition fee loan and a maintenance loan. There's no grants available for maintenance through Student Finance England. Again, bursaries and scholarships still available to you. So what does that mean? The tuition fee loan, as Ali said, is paid directly to the university. So this money isn't going to come into your account. You haven't got to kind of consciously pay the university to go to that university. It's paid via the student loans company on your behalf. Now it's worth noting that it does only cover the tuition fees. So if, for example, you're looking at a course maybe like art or sport, where there might be additional equipment that's required, it's worthwhile getting in contact with that university's course to actually see what materials are provided by the university as part of the course, and then obviously what additional costs you may incur as a student in terms of getting the right equipment that you need. And so that's a question that you could ask at the virtual fairs, virtual higher education fairs. It's a question that you could ask on the open days as well. But that is the sort of things that you will need to know in terms of budgeting for your kind of living expenses. Now, the maximum amount that you can receive of tuition fee loan is £9,295 per year. Now, that's obviously the maximum amount that universities can charge. And so whatever the university charges, you will get. Okay, so nothing is taken into consideration here in a sense of kind of how much you receive. If the university charges £9,000, you'll get £9,000. If they charge 9295, you'll get 9295. So that's how the tuition fee loan works. In terms of the maintenance loan then, the maintenance loan is the bit that is paid directly to you. At the moment, it's paid in 3 instalments, and this coincides with the terms. So that's 1 payment in September, 1 in January, and 1 in April as well. And it's about budgeting that and making sure that money lasts from the September through to that January for the next payment. The amount that you receive, it varies from England to Wales, so I will talk you through that in a second. But the amount that you receive, or how you receive it, is based on household income. So household income refers to whoever you live with. Now that could be a partner, it could be if you still live at home with mum and dad, it could be mum and dad. Whoever you live with in a sense of your kind of main partner or parents, it will be based on their household income. Things like part-time jobs and also your own income isn't considered in this household income part. The maintenance loan goes towards your living expenses. So as I said, it's if you choose to live in halls of residence, it's for you to kind of eat pizza, it's for you to kind of commute back and forth. If you're looking at going to a local university, commuting back and forth. It's also if you're looking to move away to a university, maybe coming back on the weekends if you do want to come back and see family and friends. Then that is what this maintenance loan is used for. So for those students that are Welsh domicile, regardless of whether you go to university in England or Wales, this is what you'll receive. It's based on where you're from, not where you're going to. So if you're Welsh domicile and you're planning on going to university in Wales or in England, you will get this package here. We're only going to look at this part of the table, so up to this line here. I'm hoping that you can actually see my mouse, otherwise this makes no sense. But we're just going to look at the living away from home outside of London part. So the income section here refers to the household income. So that's what I mentioned earlier. It's whoever you live with, it's their total household income. If the household income is at £18,370 or less, then you will receive a grant of £8,100 and a loan of £2,250, giving a total of £10,350. Now the word grant begins with a G, so it is good. It's free money that you don't pay back. The word loan begins with a L because it's lousy. It is money that you do have to pay back. But you'll notice that on the lowest household income threshold of 18,370, you get the maximum grant good, free money you don't pay back, and then you get the minimum loan lousy of 2,250, giving the total of £10,350. Let's just skip all the way to the highest household income, and that's of £59,200 or more, so anything above that still stays within this category. You're going to get a grant, so you're still going to get some of that free money. Grant good, it's free of £1,000, and loan lousy of £9,350, still giving you the total of £10,350. Now this bracket is for students that decide to move away from home outside of London. Now, away from home could be that the university happens to be next door to your house, okay? But if you choose to move out of your home and into halls of residence, this is the category that you would apply for. If you choose to stay at home, living with parents, living with spouse, living with partner, whoever it might be, then you will get £8,790, still with the same grant to loan ratio. And if you decide to live in London, to live away from home studying in London, then they understand that London prices are a little bit more expensive, and so they do give you that little bit more money. So again, the same amount, everyone is going to receive the same amount, but it's a grant to loan ratio split, and that's how household income influences that. Now these figures are based on 2021, so for those students starting September 2021, if you're looking for anything later than that, the figures get released in around about April time of the year that you're due to start, if that makes sense. So if you're looking for September 2022, then you'll be looking for sort of April to give you a bit more clear guidance on the figures. If you're an English domicile student, obviously you apply through Student Finance England. Even if you're planning to come to Wales, it's still English funding that you apply for, Student Finance England. And at this point, I like to put on my Wolverhampton accent to prove that I am English, because this is the system I went through. So I'm not just kind of flying the Welsh flag. There is no grants, okay? So it's a much easier table to understand, but unfortunately it is all loan. so it's all "w" and lousy, which means you do pay it back. But I'll talk you through the repayments in a second, because it's not as scary as the word loan sometimes is perceived. In terms of the household income, it still influences the amount that you're going to receive. So the household income of £25,000 or less, if you choose to stay at home, you're going to get 7,747. Live away from home outside of London at 9,203, and live away from home studying in London at 12,010. Fast forward to the highest household income of 45,000, just an example, 5,137 for staying at home. Living away from home outside of London is 6,565, and away from home studying in London is 9,330. So essentially what that means is that all of that is kind of loan based. Obviously this is per year, as is the Welsh one, and so you would receive that year on year, providing your circumstances didn't change in terms of household income. If, for example, you have a partner who is self-employed, then obviously earnings can go up and down if your partner loses their job. Again, earnings can fluctuate. It's based on the previous tax year, and so that is the household income that is assessed. However, if obviously financial implications do change during university time, it is worth contacting Student Finance England or Wales, depending on who you've applied to, because they can put emergency procedures in place for you. There is additional support as well that's available. So if you have a disability, including a long-term health condition, mental health condition, or specific learning difficulty, then you can be eligible for not only financial support, but also physical support as well, that's through the university. DSA, so Disabled Student Allowances, they help towards the additional costs you may face as a result of your disability. Sometimes students don't realise that dyslexia counts as the DSA, so you can actually get a lot of financial support for things like a laptop, maybe it's a printer, it could be a scribe within your lectures as well, so someone will actually sit with you and make notes, lecture notes with you, so that you can kind of keep up with the lecture notes that are being made available to you. If you've got children or adults that depend on you, you can apply for childcare learning grants, parents learning allowance, and adult dependent grants too. If you're a care leaver, aged 25 or under, if you've been looked after the care system for at least 13 weeks since the age of 14, or if you're an estranged student under 25 studying without family support network, then you can also apply for additional support. But that can be both financial and also physical support, such as a dedicated staff mentor or year-round accommodation as well. So where students tend to go home for the summer, then actually we can put year-round accommodation on for those students that need it. As I mentioned, the bursaries and scholarships, it is a case of kind of searching on each individual university website to see what is available to you. Bursaries and scholarships, as I mentioned, are free money. They are provided by each individual university. So if you were to search Cardiff Met's bursaries and scholarships, you'll see that we have 5 available here. They all have different criteria. So for example, the sports scholarships, we actually have 12 different sports scholarships available, and they've all got different criteria within them as well. So it's about searching for the scholarships, having a look through them all, look at what you might be eligible for. It might be, for example, the Study Life Award, where it is for students who are from an area of low HE progression. So you can check your postcode to see if you would be eligible for that scholarship award. But I really do recommend that you do. I missed out on a £3,000 bursary when I went to university because I just couldn't be bothered to do this part, and now I regret that decision, because think of the amount of dominoes that I could have had. Absolutely gutted on that part. Now, in terms of repaying the student loan, obviously I think sometimes the term loan is a little bit scary, and I like to call it more of a graduate tax, okay? Now, as Ali mentioned, anything under the threshold of £26,575, you don't pay anything back. Now, in terms of those repayments, it's only when you start earning that the repayments actually kick in, okay? It's actually the April after you graduate. So we're going to fast forward you all now. It's now July, you've graduated from your degree, you've all done marvellously well. You don't start paying your repayments back until the April after you have graduated. Now, let's say you get a job in that April. You've got a job of working wherever you want to work on a salary of £27,000 per year. Okay, so that is your kind of salary is £27,000 per year. You will be paying back for your student loan £3 a month. Okay, £3 a month. Now I want you to think about the last time you spent £3 a month. I went to Starbucks this morning. I had a decaf white Americano, a medium. It was £3.75. I mean, it's daylight robbery right there, you know? £3 a month. I want you to think about the time that you spent £3, probably today, probably yesterday, and start adding those little bits amounts up, because you'll be paying £3 a month back towards your degree. Times that by a year, you're looking at £36 a year. That's if you were to stay on a salary of £27,000, okay? Now, let's factor that into the time that you'll be repaying your student loan. So £36 a year times 30 years is £1,080. Now, the reason 30 years is there is because any outstanding loan balance will be cancelled 30 years after entering repayments. So what that means is whatever you have left after making those 30 years of repayments will be wiped. Now, as you can see here, we've estimated 3 years of tuition fee at the highest rate. So that's the sort of loan and grant. So we've taken the highest loan rate, because grants, as we know, they're good. We don't pay them back. 3 years of maintenance. Sorry, that's the other way around. 3 years of tuition fee, 3 years of maintenance. So we've taken the loan element, we've ignored the grant. And we've estimated that at the highest rate of £64,665. So if you were to stay on a salary of £27,000 for 30 years, now hopefully you'll increase in salary, but if you were, you would pay back £1,080, and the rest of that amount would be wiped. Now, I'm not that good at maths, but it's a lot of money that's going to be wiped off of there, okay? And that's what you've got to think. That is actually the reality of your student finance. I pay student finance. I pay less for my student finance than I do for my phone contract, than I do for my coffees, than I do for, you know, many things that I buy on a monthly basis. I pay a lot less for my degree that has helped me get the job that I'm in now and will help me get jobs that I'm in the future as well. So finance really should not be a barrier to your future higher education. Now, obviously, as Ali said, to be eligible for that finance, you do have to have not taken student finance before, but that really is the only barrier that is stopping you from sort of student finance. And there is kind of that, what did you call it? You called it an extra year kind of thing. There is that kind of year if you need it. If you, for example, you fail one of the kind of first, second or third years, then there is that sort of backup year with student finance. So it's not that you'd have to self-fund a sort of financed a failing year. So there is that option for you as well. So I hope that's kind of put your mind at ease in terms of student finance. I can't see if any questions have come in because I'm sharing my screen and I've only got one screen. But if there is any questions, I will pick those up at the end in a second. But I thought I'd just quickly cover then the additional support that you can get as well. So from a financial perspective, we've looked at what support's available through student finance, but I thought we'd also look at what kind of universities offer in terms of student support through student services. So most students and most universities will have a personal tutor. Now, a personal tutor is someone that you have regular meetings with. This could be once a term or as many as you need, but at the minimum it's once a term to check in with you, to see about pastoral support, academic support. So things like, how are your assignments going? Things like, how's things at home? Things like, how are you getting on in halls of residence? How are you getting on in society, sports? All of these types of questions that, you know, is about you and is about your student life. If you don't want to talk about essays in this, if you want to talk about, you know, the clubs and societies that you've joined, then that's absolutely what this is for. Any sort of issues that you may have can be raised with your personal tutor, and they are really the best person to then signpost you to the additional support that you need, or they can do that on your behalf as well. Now, in terms of student services, if you didn't want to speak to your personal tutor, you can go via student services, and they offer free, impartial, non-judgmental advice on a number of things. It could be money, well-being, disability and dyslexia. Personal example, I used student services twice when I was in university. The first one was for money. The reason being, I was a bit of a lazy student, to be honest. The reason being is because I didn't apply for Student Finance England before the deadline, because I am an idiot. And so I didn't actually receive my student finance until the December, although I'd started my course in the September. So I knew that in September I wasn't going to get my student finance because I'd only applied about a week before. And so what I did is I went to student services, I explained the situation. They put me on the student hardship fund because I couldn't afford to be at university without some sort of financial support. And so they put me on the student hardship fund, and then I was able to live on that for a couple of weeks, until my parents could make some contributions, and until I could get a part-time job as well. And then I decided to come off that, but equally I could have stayed on until I got my Student Finance England payment. So there's lots of options for you. Another example is that we had a student, obviously pre-pandemic, whose car actually broke down. She was a local student. She was commuting back and forth from Bristol every day, so across the bridge, and her car broke down. It was the only way she could get to university. She couldn't afford to make the payment to kind of get the car up and running again, and so she applied through the Student Hardship Fund. Now what they do is that they will look at your sort of outgoings, and they will look at what you're spending your money on. Obviously, if you're spending your money on Domino's and takeaways every night, then it may be that actually if we cut down on that, we could maybe get some more money for you. And so they will look at your kind of money well-being as well, to kind of help support you, and then look at what additional support that they can offer. But there's lots of support there from the university. Another way that I was supported through student services was in my second year of university. I have always suffered with kind of exam stress and exam anxiety. I thought that was just kind of normal. It wasn't until one of my second year exams where my hand stopped working in the middle of the exam, holding the pen, couldn't hold it anymore, and I had a stress-induced panic attack. I was since then diagnosed with anxiety, and so I was offered counselling and support through student services. I was offered extra time in my exams to allow for that setting, and I could also have my exams in separate kind of areas as well, in a more comfortable environment than being in a kind of hall with 200 other people and the tiniest desk in the world. And so that was really important for me. I spoke with student services about what I wanted. I didn't need extra time. I just kind of wanted a kind of different area, different environment where I could do that exam. Because for me, it was people watching me. I felt like people were looking at me when I was doing my exam. And so I put the measures in place that I needed. But what I would say is it's really important to note that they can offer you everything, but it's what you want to take as well, in terms of that support, in terms of student support. So if you don't want to take all of the, for example, things with dyslexia, if you don't want a scribe, if you just want a laptop and a printer, then you can absolutely take that as well. And so it's about kind of seeing what's available, and then you can choose what would fit with how you work and sort of the what you want. In terms of getting the support, obviously kind of coming to university, what I really recommend is on your application, if you declare to us that you have a disability, for example dyslexia, or any other kind of additional support that you need, if you declare that on your personal statement, if you declare that on your reference, if you declare that on the application, then we're able to know that we need to pre-meet with you. Now we can set up to meet with advisors as soon as your place is confirmed. So as soon as if you've already got your results, as soon as you have your results, we can meet with you, and that can be sort of in the August time to put the measures in place ready for you to start in the September. We will obtain medical evidence. So for example, with dyslexia, if you've never been tested for dyslexia and you feel that you may need to have that test, or if the test certificate has run out, then we will ask you to kind of complete another dyslexia testing. Once we have that, we then get you to apply, and we apply on your behalf through DSA for Disabled Student Allowance. And then we'll book the study needs assessment, and that's where we will look at the kind of support that we can offer, and then looking at kind of what you want to take, and then you will access that support either through university-led and through DSA. And then it's about constantly reviewing your support, because in first year the academic work sort of steps up year on year. So in first year it's quite kind of like a foundation level, bringing everyone up to the same level. And then in second and third year, it kind of gets a little bit more heavy based in terms of the academia, but your support will also step up as well. So they review the support consistently year on year. So in terms of study skills, some of you may have been out of university for a while. Lots of our adult learners have been out of university for a while, have lots of life experience, and very good life experience that they can bring to students who maybe don't have as much life experience coming straight from school. Certainly I was in that position. The course that I did was a course called Dental Technology, all about making teeth. And my course was a 50-50 split. So it was 50% kind of straight from school learners and 50% adult learners. Not because that's the way the course is structured, just purely by happy coincidence, that's kind of how it worked year on year. And speaking as a student that came straight from school, it was really, really good for me to kind of gain life experience and life skills from people that had come from industry and people that had come from an adult learner perspective. And then we could bring the sort of study skills perspective too. So whilst I'm going to talk about the university support that's offered, actually on your course as well, there's a lot of peer-to-peer mentoring and peer-to-peer support that happens, in a sense of kind of adult learners supporting school leaver learners and vice versa as well. So there's additional support on top of this as well. So the academic skills that are needed, it's good to know what you're going to have to do. So things like citation and referencing. This is essentially if you were writing an essay and you were to kind of take someone's words and sort of quote them, not in a sense of kind of speech mark quoting, but just kind of say, like, for example, Katie says blah, 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 then you would need to reference that. You would need to say that I said it, and you would need to say what book I wrote it in, and that would be how you would reference that. And there's criticality, so that's where you actually would critique a viewpoint. That's where you would say that whether you support it or whether you kind of disagree with it, and also find other writers who are the same, so whether they agree or disagree. Academic writing, generally studying at university, so actually getting used to the idea of you being in control of your study time, whereas obviously previously in school or in college, it may be that a teacher is asking for lots of deadlines. In university, we give you all the deadlines at the start of the year, and then it's for you to meet those deadlines with your assignments. Obviously assessments, and actually the pressure of completing those assessments when, you know, you may have the sort of marking criteria, looking at maybe what you need to kind of achieve as part of that if you want to get those higher grades, then working out kind of how it works from an assessment perspective. Dealing with exams, obviously I've already mentioned how I kind of didn't deal with them so well, and so putting the different sort of exam skills in place. Presentation skills, you will have to do a presentation regardless of what subject you study. It's actually one of the skills that we give you, or we kind of guarantee to give you as part of the course. So presentation skills is something that you will need, and also research skills as well. Finding the right journal, finding the right book, finding the right article that will support what you're trying to say within your essay. And so going about doing that research, not kind of reading massive books, because you could end up in that boat, but actually being critical and actually finding the exact source that you need, rather than kind of reading a big book, because that'll take you years and no one wants that. But there is lots of support available. That's what you need. This is how you get it, okay? If you're thinking any of those, you're kind of panicking already, then there is lots of support available, and I want to reassure you that there's lots of support available too. Webinars are a brilliant thing. Obviously we're on one now, but webinars are something that's going to continue post-pandemic, and these are a really good opportunity for students who are actually in university to get access to these sorts of sessions. What's great is that, you know, you come straight out of a lecture, straight out of a seminar, and you can jump onto a webinar about doing research, about kind of criticality of articles, about referencing. There's different types of referencing, so it may be about one specific type of referencing. Tutorials are a really good way to kind of ask the questions that you're not too sure of. So picture the scene. Your lecture, for example, in psychology, our psychology course is quite big. We have around about 100 students on the psychology course. And in normal pre-pandemic times, you'd be in a kind of lecture theatre space. In kind of pandemic times, we're in a kind of virtual space, and no one wants to ask a question. I certainly don't want to put my hand up and look like the pleb or the class clown asking that question. So what they do when they understand this isn't something new that's happened. This is, you know, people have gone to university for years and years. And so what they do is they put on tutorials. And that is where you go over the content that is covered in the lecture, and you will go over that in a smaller group. So it may be 8 to 15 people that's in that class with you. And that's where you can go through your lecture notes. It's normally a couple of days later, so you've had time to really kind of digest what's been said. And you can go over your lecture notes and you can ask those questions. Like me, you can ask the maybe silly questions that probably everyone else is thinking, but no one wants to put their hand up. As I mentioned before, your personal tutor, they can be a really great place to signpost you to extra support. You can get assignment support as well through your personal tutor, but also again through student services. And then there's also online support that's available, obviously 24/7, with the nature of kind of being online. It's available 24/7 in terms of webinar recordings, but also in terms of personal tutor support too. the kind of live chat element that is built in through the big white wall, which is a well-being centered place for students. And so you can go on, you can chat with people that are maybe in a similar boat to you. In terms of studying, everyone studies at a different capacity and a different way. So for example, in terms of 24-hour study support, it may be that you want to be able to go to a space that is a good working environment for you. And so we have the IT suite, which is available 24 hours a day. There's a certain room that you can go into. And if you need that area whereby other people around you are working and there's sort of a desk space that's designated for you, maybe you can't work at home for various reasons, then actually you can go to that designated space and you can work 24 hours a day. And I know that sort of during the dissertation hand-in period, sort of March through to May, it does get quite busy with everyone working through the night, the little night owls. And there's vending machines too, which is a really top tip for your dissertation writing. So in terms of what next, if you're thinking, well, university might be for me, obviously you've kind of heard from Ali in terms of how to get there. You've heard from me what you're going to get when you're supported at university. In terms of what next, definitely research your options. As Ali mentioned, UCAS is a really great starting place for that. You can search by sort of subject area. You can narrow it down by location, so you can put in your home postcode. You can search by a radius as well, so it will tell you the specific courses that are local to you, or if you want to go further away, then increase that radius as well. But most importantly, get in touch with the universities. If you want to contact Cardiff Met, I really recommend contacting Widening Access at cardiffmet.ac.uk. That team will be able to really support you, and they deal with our adult learners, and so they will be able to fully support you with your application. But also what I recommend is checking out the summer school. So Widening Access have an adult learners summer school, which is from the 14th to the 25th of June, and you can use that QR code there, and that will take you to the registration for that summer school. But it's about kind of having that experience and doing things like summer schools and taster sessions to see if it's really like what you might expect university to be, because I think sometimes university can sound very academic and very kind of frightening, and certainly that was something I was concerned about, was how many exams am I going to have to do for these courses. But actually when you go to things like open days, and albeit virtual at the moment, you'll start to realise that actually they're quite normal people at universities, and I think that was a huge kind of learning curve for me, was that it's not all kind of people walking around in capes looking a little bit Hogwartsy. It's very normal, and it's about progressing you into potentially your future career as well. So definitely do get in touch with us. Hopefully it's put your mind at ease. What I should mention as well, I know that we're obviously talking about people with convictions and obviously applying with that conviction. All of that support that I've mentioned isn't just because you have a conviction or someone that you're supporting has a conviction. That is available for any student, adult learner, straight from school learners, people with convictions. Anyone is able to access that support, and that's not just you don't get additional support because of your circumstances. It's any support, because anyone can go through anything. 3 years is quite a long time, and certainly with my anxiety, it was something that developed in my second year that kind of came on really quickly. And so you may not need student support straight away. It may be in your second or third year that you need to access that support, but it's always there should you need it. Hopefully that was useful. I will jump back across to Teams now. I'll stop sharing my screen. There we are. And yeah, if you guys have got any questions, there has quite a few questions coming.
They're mainly comments that I've put in, so don't worry, Katie.
Oh, brilliant. You're just chatting away. Cool.
Yeah, so hopefully that was really useful. Thank you very much, Katie. That was really good. The courses that they do in Cardiff Met, they're all virtual, I think, this year in the summer school, so it doesn't matter where you are, you'll be able to do those courses. And thanks, there's some really sort of interesting points that Ali made and that Katie made. Thank you. I think it's just about trying to remove the myth there that if you've got a conviction that university isn't for you, convictions will be taken on a case-by-case basis, obviously. But the starting point is always about the academic eligibility. So once you've got the academic eligibility, it's about starting that application process. Some of the other things that I think that education gives people with convictions, particularly that are outside of some of the things that Ali and Katie talked about, there are some different things that maybe you wouldn't have thought about. So often it changes your peer group. Some of the people that I've supported beforehand, when I'd mentored them and they'd be going into university straight from prison, yeah, they might be seeing me a couple of times a week at first, but they soon move on and they move into a new peer group. They've got people that they're meeting that have all got something in common, which is that they're all doing a particular course, all studying together. So that's important. They'll get that. It's a different focus for their activity. They'll definitely develop a real passion for education. So I think that's particularly important too. So yeah, I think you covered lots of things there. Has anyone got any questions? I think Julie, your hand's up, isn't it? Do you want to unmute yourself, Julie, and ask a question?
Yes, can I ask both of you, if you've got somebody who's in prison and they know they've got their release date coming, say it's going to be in March of 2022, and then they would be applying for university before that date, will you accept applications from people actually still serving a sentence?
From experience, they're definitely eligible to apply, and I know I did that with. I set up a correspondence-based program when I was in Cardiff Met, with that very purpose. So I had students writing to me, and I was trying to get them, do all the sort of. It was a slightly different timing, so we were doing all the risk assessments. But yeah, there's no reason why that can't all be done prior to their release.
I was going to say, because by the time. So in terms of admissions, they sort of consider applications up to pretty much September time anyway for certain courses. Equal kind of consideration is sort of around May time. So in terms of admissions, considering it, obviously the person would be released from sort of March anyway, and so that it wouldn't be an unspent conviction because they'd have served their time, if that makes sense.
I think it would obviously be on a one-to-one basis, but I can only see complications around like the home address for applying for student finance and things like that, because many people don't have a home address at that.
No, and I think again that applies on a kind of individual perspective. Home address is normally classed as where they were pre-prison. Obviously it depends on how long that sentence is as to what that home address would be classed as. But again, if you contact Student Finance England or Wales, I know my circumstances are very different in the sense of obviously mine wasn't a conviction for the reason I've just relocated. But if you contact them, they do have people that will be able to check the eligibility in terms of the domicile status, as to whether they're classed as English or Welsh. So that would be my first point of call. But student finance doesn't open until around about April time anyway, for the year that you actually would go to university.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
I've had situations like that one as well, Julie, where the university in question, and I won't mention them, although they're not on this call, the university wanted that individual to do a year's worth of study in the community before coming to that institution. Unfortunately, they used that year as a reason to say to give that person a very slow no, as in to come to the university. But then I managed to get them into another university instead. But sometimes there are. I wouldn't say there are conditions upon coming to the university, but sometimes it can be a bit of a laborious process. It's also worthwhile trying to develop a good rapport with that university, whether it's the program director or maybe if you know someone else within the university, whether it's in an academic or a staff support role that can introduce you to the right organisation. Universities are big organisations, and one person, isn't always the right person to be introduced to. So if you can find that right person, you can generally get a better, more consistent, and probably a more accurate answer by trying to find out who that right person is.
Okay, thank you. I'll take my hand down.
No worries. Any other questions? Do we have anything else there at all in the chat? I've been answering a few as we were going along on there, so hopefully that was all right. Brilliant. Okay. Well, I'd like to take the minute just for me to say thank you to Ali from University of South Wales, and thank you to Katie from Cardiff Met. Apologies for saying the wrong university before. If only I should have known that. I also didn't introduce myself at the beginning. I realised when I was going through my notes. If you've all probably got fed up of receiving emails from me, and you've probably seen me around a little bit before. I'm Jamie. I'm one of the directors of Inside Out Support Wales, and we support people with convictions into education and self-employment as well, in that we've got those two strands as well. We've got loads of other webinars which are taking place this week. So I'm going to try and share my screen now, so I can just share with you where the if it will allow me to. Here we go. There we are. So I'll just show you that little screen there. You should be able to see what we've got going on this week. So we've got some ones tomorrow on going self-employed tomorrow evening. We've got an introduction to supporting people with a criminal record on Wednesday, entrepreneurship in the afternoon, budgeting in the evening. On Saturday, on Thursday, we've got an interesting one on using social media, reclaiming your brand online. Then we've got one on employing ex-offenders, which is particularly useful. And then we've also got effective disclosure on Friday morning. So I'll send you all the details of that. You've probably had them before. If you go to our website, insideout.wales/webinars and then -IOSW. I think we need to improve that web address, and you'll be able to find all the information out there. But just go onto our website, then you should be able to find out all the information. You've got emails from me, so if you're not too sure, just drop me an email. So yeah, thank you very much everybody for joining us today, and especially thank you to Katie and to Ali. I'm very, very grateful for them giving up their time at the moment and for their expertise as well. So thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing you on any of the future Voices of Experience webinars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye everyone.